Whether it's Saquon Barkley's illustrious leap or Allen Iverson's signature pose, Jordan Spector is sure to make it a work of art, especially AI and his on-court artistry.
My favorite Sixer of all time, and I've connected with him before, and I know he's, in general, just such a passionate guy, but he really loves art especially, and every time I show him something, he's always trying to take it from me. So I know he loves it, which is always fun.
The fun and business of being Jordan Spector, Philly-born sports artist. Next on Fresh 24. Jordan Spector, a locally based sports artist. You paint our teams, you paint our athletes, you paint our heroes, past and present. Athletes actually commission you to do work for them. I can't wait to talk about that one. Your stuff has been licensed by Fanatics. That's no joke. That's big time, bro. Actually, misfortune led you to all this. We're going to talk about that. And you're a 2015 graduate of Temple from the College of Public Health, which, of course, is the road to being a successful sports artist, right? College of Public Health. Yep. Is that right?
Yes. College of Public Health. Kinesiology was my major at Temple. Yep.
Okay. All right. Jordan Spector, welcome to Fresh 24, my friend.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Are you even 30 yet?
I'm actually 32, but I'm glad you put it that way.
Yeah. You're a young pup. All right. So here's the challenge, Jordan, right off the bat.
Yep.
We are featured on YouTube, but a lot of people listen on their cars. They listen on their phones. So we have to be very descriptive about your work and your artistry. Does that work for you?
Yeah, I will do my best.
Good. Details. We're all about details.
I love
all
details.
Right. What I would think you'd have to be, given what it is that you do, but we'll talk about that. Very interesting story on how you got involved with this. We'll touch on that. But first, you're riding in an elevator and somebody says, what do you do for a living? And you have, 10 floors to give them the story. What do you say?
Well, I would tell them that I am an artist, first and foremost. But the word I like to use now is actually storyteller. I like to tell stories, but not in writing, not audio, but visually with my art. And I've tapped into that more and more, which I think really helps make my artwork that much more impactful and special, is tapping into the idea of storytelling. So I'm a storyteller.
So I have to imagine it's not just a portrait of someone, but there are other elements that you paint that help to tell that story. What are those elements?
There's many elements that go into it. I'm very detail oriented, as we already talked about details. But I really like to kind of set the scene and really put somebody in that moment when they look at the artwork. So it's really about setting the scene for me in the art and adding those little details that help tell the story.
Details such as
the particular moment, or if it's a team that I'm creating, like the Sixers. I really like to add references as far as like quotes from the athlete or like nicknames of the athlete. So I really go deep into what ties into that athlete's story or the moment that I'm capturing. Like even behind me, I've got Bryce Harper, I've got Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. Like those are two pieces of two moments that were big, just, in the past year and a half. Harper hitting the home run in London. So you've got him doing the outstretched arms. London slide is what I call it. And then Devontae and AJ, they kind of reenacted the LeBron D Wade collab dunk from back in the day when they were on the Heat. So that's actually the reenaction that I did, because they actually performed these moments in their respective sport, which was really cool. So for me, it's all about capturing that moment.
Is the Saquon Barkley backwards hurdle, is that on the docket?
It is. And actually, that has been probably number one or number two hits of the year as far as just the amount of attention it's gotten. So as soon as I saw that, I knew, man, that is something I have to capture. As a former football player myself, just knowing how difficult that is to do. To me, it's impossible, but he proved that it is not impossible to do that in a football game. So yeah, so that is one that I actually just completed last week, and it's been
Oh, wow. You got it done so quickly.
yeah, very
Interesting.
quick. And it was actually the same with that Harper one you saw, because like when there's a moment that really inspires me, I'm kind of locked in because I know what I want to do already. I don't have to think about it too much, and I just go to work. So yeah.
Why do you do sports? Why don't you do, I don't know, fruit bowls or landscapes or whatever?
Well, my entire life I've done art, right? When somebody asks me how long I've been an artist or how long you've been doing this, I really say my entire life. Because like any other craft in the world, you have to work on that your entire life to be really, really good at it. And when I was a kid, I used to just draw anything that piqued my interest. So I was drawing fire trucks or Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh, all the nerdy stuff I was into, Star Wars. But I eventually gained a lot of interest in football. My two inspirations were Brian Dawkins and my cousin, who's a very good football player. And that led to me going down a path of playing football for a good chunk of my life. And I always did the art on the side. It was a hobby of mine, but I never was doing sports. And then once I got to college at Temple, love the sweatshirt, by the way. I should have put my
Thank
Temple hat
you.
on.
Thank you.
Go Owls.
Go ahead.
When that happened, I spent a couple years where I wasn't doing any art, which kind of sucked, and I missed that. And I also became a walk-on football player at Temple, and that really absorbed all my time. And then I got hurt, and when I got hurt, I actually started doing art again, and that was the first time I was doing sports because it was a different way of me to channel my passion, especially for the game of football that I never really did before because I couldn't play anymore. So that's really what kicked this whole thing off is combining those two passions and accidentally turning it into a career all these years later, because it was never part of the plan. Essentially, it was God's plan, but wasn't my plan in my head.
Right.
So yeah, sports.
So that was the story I was going to ask you about, the fact that, you actually made the team as a walk-on and then you got hurt and you got into this art thing full time. Let me ask you, you say you were drawing since you were a kid. Are artists born or can you learn to be an artist?
I think you do need to have some sort of internal or biological talent in there. But then again, art is all subjective, right? So it's all, what is art? You know what I mean? Like somebody could think my art sucks. I don't think it sucks, but somebody out there could. Maybe they don't like sports, So it's all subjective because, you'll see canvases on a wall in a gallery in Miami that has a line on it and it's $150,000 and someone buys it. So the art world is super interesting from that standpoint. And, I think anybody could be an artist. Everybody has a creative outlet. And I even tell other friends of mine that, like, when they say, oh, like, you're so talented, like, I look at something they're talented. I'm like, well, hey, you're an artist in this way, right? Like, it's very subjective. So, but yes, like my type of work, I feel like you can only teach so much. My dad's a very talented artist too. So I definitely get those genetics from him, I think. And it's just, kind of a God-given talent.
So I've always thought there was a certain inherent insecurity about being an artist. And I'm not just talking about being a painter, but a musician or anybody who creates anything, because of what you just said. It's so subjective. Do you constantly feel that bad? Are they going to like it? Are they going to like it? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I think myself included, like all artists are looking for that approval, right? Like especially once you're in business too, you kind of want to have that, notion that like, hey, like not only does somebody like this, somebody will buy this painting, or somebody will buy this print, or whatever the case is. And it's always great when you work so hard on something, like me grinding this past week day after day on the Saquon piece, and then I finally put it out there and the reaction exceeds my expectations, and that's always fun. And that's always reassuring to get that feedback, because you don't know. I try to stay like humble as far as like what my expectations are, because if you raise those expectations over what they probably should be, then you're going to be let down, opposed to leaving your expectations low and then everything else after that feels great. So it's kind of a different mindset.
Hey, it's Marc Zumoff. Join me and Philly sports favorite Seth Joyner, Mike Quick, MMA champ Eddie Alvarez, Joe Conklin, Dee Lynam, Matt Cord, Ricky Bowe, and the Cuz, Anthony Gargano. What a lineup. We want you to join us on the BetParx team. BetParx is the official winning partner of the Philadelphia 76ers and the only casino and sportsbook that yours truly, Marc Zumoff, recommends and uses. Whether your team scores or not, there's always another way to win on the BetParx online casino and sportsbook app. BetParx has your seat with a live dealer for all your favorite classic casino games. Right on your phone and wherever you are, the tailgate, the stadium, on your couch. Double down on fourth down. Make downtime fun time. Play live dealer blackjack, craps, roulette, and more while watching the game. Bet on all your favorite sports. Bet the birds, pro football, and college football. Download the BetParx app right now and enjoy all the action and excitement from the casino at your fingertips. Play hundreds of exciting online slots. New users download the BetParx online casino app and sportsbook and get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. Casino bonus must be wagered. See betparx.com for details. Must be 21 and in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, or Michigan. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. You play for fun. You love to win. You bet. BetParx. Back to the Saquon piece, there are millions of angles, stills, video. What sets a painting apart from those?
For me, it's about, like with my work, I try to be as unique as I can. So I try to create something that I haven't seen yet, because I don't want to just take the picture and paint it as is, right? That's boring to me. And a photographer is there to capture that. But for me, I want to make it my own imaginative creation, right? And for that piece, if I'll send it to you actually, but it's a spinoff of The Matrix. Kevin Nagandi, who's a good friend of mine, I saw him make a post saying like, this feels like it's straight out of The Matrix. And that is what gave me the aha idea to do, because I'm a huge Matrix fan when I was a kid. And it just felt like he was in The Matrix with that type of move. And that is actually the theme that went into it for that. And, so for me, for artwork, what sets it apart is just the unique touch to it and trying to make it something that nobody has done.
Let me just say, Kevin Nagandi, a Temple grad, by the way, but also an excellent talent on ESPN. He's been there for years. He's been a guest on our program. So your inspiration, this Matrix theme, kind of came in a conversation with you and Kevin. How much inspiration comes just from while you're doing the painting, like something just sort of strikes you?
That's a good question, because usually I'll go into any painting now with like a good idea of what I'm going to do, but always, every single time, there are ideas that come into my head when I'm really locked in that zone. And I'm a night owl when it comes to creativity, so it always seems to me that late night hour when I have no distractions around me and I'm locked in listening to my music, and those kind of extra creative ideas come in. So it happens a lot. I get those ideas spontaneously, it's not planned.
You mentioned music. Do you paint with music?
I do most of the time, because if it's just silent, there's not as much juice flowing in there. And I listen to all sorts of music. I like to switch it up, but I do prefer music while I'm working.
There are obviously other sports artists in the world What is it about your particular style that makes you different or even unique?
Well, like I mentioned, I like to tell stories, and I feel like a lot of the sports artwork I see out there isn't necessarily telling a story, or it's kind of just it is, but like for me, I kind of go an extra level with it, right? Like I really do my research and I really tap into those little details that people might not think about. Um, or for like the Saquon, right? Like bringing out that matrix concept, but even like the coding that's falling down, like in the matrix, it has like his name in it, like the number 26, his stats from that game, like all sorts of relevant things to him. So I like to think that my work is super unique from that standpoint. And part of my research is seeing what's out there so that I don't do something that's already out there, because I want to be that unique and that different. Um, so that, I hope that is kind of what sets me apart. And I kind of have this mix of realism, but also larger than life type of feel to the artwork. So yeah.
What materials do you work with and why?
So that's been an evolution. I actually used to hand draw everything with graphite and pastel pencil, and then I learned how to paint with acrylic. And now I do a lot of work as well digitally on my iPad. So I draw it on my iPad, especially if it's like a quick design I have to get out for Fanatics or like another company, or at least like to make the concept, and then I do the work on canvas. So I love working on my iPad now too, but I still like to get my hands dirty. So when I do paint, it's usually acrylic, or like I do murals every now and then as well if something comes down the pipeline. So usually acrylic.
You mentioned digital. Artificial intelligence, of course, has been the hot topic now for quite some time. Does this enter into your field of endeavor at all?
I see so much out there and I've played with it as well. My philosophy is that you just have to embrace what is coming with that. So if anything, I am welcoming of that technology and trying to see the capabilities of it. I haven't done a whole lot as far as like a complete piece using AI, but I've seen other artists really tap into it and make some pretty crazy stuff. But yeah, I haven't played with it too much.
Okay. Jordan, it's halftime, and that means we have a couple of things coming up. But first, I just want to tease the fact that you have branched out quite a bit. You have this deal with Fanatics. We're talking about some pretty high-priced stuff, which we'll be talking about as well. I want to know the most favorite piece, and I'm not going to ask you now, but this is coming up. Your most favorite piece you ever produced, and a piece where maybe the athlete said, you know what, bro, this just doesn't work. So keep that in mind. But first, it's halftime. And the first part of halftime is being brought to you by Garage Beer. This is our Garage Beer 6-pack of questions. Garage Beer, beer-flavored beer. Find some near you at drinkgaragebeer.com. I'll give you a choice between two things. You just blurt out the answer. Don't think about it. Just blurt. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Cheesesteak or soft pretzel?
Cheesesteak.
Center City or South Jersey?
Center City.
Gritty or Philly Fanatic?
Philly Fanatic.
Meek Miller, Hall & Oates?
Meek Mill.
Dr. J or Allen Iverson throwback?
Allen Iverson.
Liberty Bell or Rocky Steps?
Rocky Steps.
All right. 6-pack of questions brought to you by Garage Beer, beer-flavored beer. Find some near you at drinkgaragebeer.com. A quick look into my music library, and you tell me if you have these artists or not. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Sting and or the Police?
A little Police.
Tom Petty?
A little bit, yep.
Dave Brubeck?
Nope.
Jazz guy from the 50s and 60s.
Okay.
Warren G and Nate Dogg?
A little bit, yep.
Drake?
Yep.
Who's your go-to, by the way? Who's your go-to music?
I listen to a lot of music. Actually, something really funny, like super different that I listen to a lot when I create is Hans Zimmer. You ever listen to Hans Zimmer?
You know what? Have I? Tell me more about him.
He does like the soundtrack for Batman and all these movies where it has really epic, dramatic music. no lyrics or anything like that. It's just
Okay. Okay. Like a lot of movie stuff.
like a symphony. Yeah. And then I listen to a lot of Bob Marley. I love Bob Marley.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. A lot of house music, techno music,
Okay.
like not recently, but a lot of like Marshmello. But yeah, and some country mixed in there. Some rock and roll. So, like I said, I like to switch it up, but those are some ones that come to mind that when I'm creating, just get me in the
Mm.
zone.
So Jordan, we detailed the fact that you made the Temple football team as a walk-on, or were you trying out, or you actually made the team?
I made the team, yes.
Did you see the field at all?
Not really. A little bit of special teams mixed in there, but that was about it.
That's all right. You made the team as a walk-on. I think that's quite an accomplishment, especially with a D1 team. My point is, after you got injured, you turned to painting, something you kind of dabbled with, even as a young man. At what point did you say, you know what, I can actually make a living at this?
That was a long journey to get to that point, to have the confidence to take that leap of faith, to go full time with it. But it was a slow process because initially I was just taking on work that I thought would be a challenge, and I enjoyed challenge. And it wasn't just sports stuff. It was dog portraits, it was house portraits, it was family portraits, it was really random stuff sometimes. And I love to dabble, but what I found that I enjoyed the most was sports. And it wasn't until 2018 that I made an actual LLC, and it wasn't until 2020 that I went full time. And
During the pandemic.
during the pandemic, yeah, it was kind of half of the year before that, leading up to it, but it wasn't until the pandemic that stuff really took off, which that was a huge silver lining of a year for artists and creatives. I know many other creatives that really made their mark that year.
Why was that?
Because there was so much more attention online and less people being out and about. They were tapped into everything on social media. Everything was kind of in one place, and the collectibles world in general. Like if you had any sort of online business ready to go, it was like Christmas every month in 2020 for a lot of online businesses, especially in like the card world, and a lot of artists and just people buying stuff. So
you've really expanded your business, and you're obviously making a living at this thing. You have a deal with Fanatics, something you call the Immortals. Tell us about it. What's it about?
yeah, so Fanatics is awesome. They're great to work with. I've been working with them for I guess 3 years now, and it's always like different contracts. So like I've done some NFL stuff with them. I've done baseball stuff with them. I'm actually supposed to be doing next some WWE stuff with them for next year. They always keep it interesting and fun, and they're great to work with. And then Immortals is actually my trading card brand that I started last year, something that I became passionate about kind of starting in the pandemic or 2020, 2021. There was a lot of projects that Topps Trading Cards was doing with artists that I thought was really cool. And I even saw some artists branch off and do their own thing. I was like, man, like I know some of these athletes, like I feel like I could do some really cool stuff with them and kind of make it my own. And sure enough, finally things came to fruition last year where I was able to just figure out the blueprint and create that process of, hey, how do you even get these cards made? Like I didn't want to do it a little fake thing. I wanted it to be legit, the same quality as these big card companies, or even better. So that took months and months to figure out. And last year I launched Immortals. And each project is a direct collaboration with the athlete. And usually a portion of it we have going to something they're passionate about, whether it's their foundation or another foundation. So that's always fun too. But the first guy I worked with who I have a great relationship with is Brian Dawkins. And that was our first card release last year, November last year. And since then I've done Brian Dawkins, then Brandon Graham earlier this year, and then Bo Nickel, who's a former Penn State wrestler, UFC fighter who actually fights this weekend, Patrick Willis, Hall of Famer, 49ers, And then we just did Brad Lidge October 29th last month, which is the 16th anniversary of the Phillies winning the World Series. So, it's been a lot of fun, and it's been a pretty interesting journey as far as, the product itself and the evolution of that, and just the details that go into it. And it's a lot of fun creating this, because for me, it's, you're used to a canvas or a print on the wall, but to be able to hold the artwork in your hand like this is really a new way to appreciate it, if that makes sense.
And aren't there products? I think I saw Tom Brady. I don't. Maybe it was an Immortal. I don't know. Selling for upwards of what, $25,000?
A trading card, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. And that's nothing.
And he's
like,
autographed it, I would imagine.
Yeah. Oh, are you talking about my work? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, the painting on Fanatics website. Yeah, that was an original painting that I did with them as a part of many projects from that time period. Yeah, I think they just have some stuff left in inventory, but most of it is sold. But yeah, that painting is $25,000 on their website. Yeah, signed by Tom Brady. Yeah, and
Wow.
and those are cool too, because I actually get my own copy of every project signed by that athlete. So that's pretty fun for me to have that extra takeaway.
You have a favorite piece you've ever produced?
I do. Usually when people ask me that one, it's actually this one hanging behind me. This is actually just a print of it, but the original painting is 15 feet.
And describe that for those who are just listening.
Yeah, so this is called Eagles Legacy on the Road to Victory. It is the full history of the Philadelphia Eagles from the 1940s up until the Super Bowl win in 2018. There's 41 players and coaches in it, if you can imagine. And, just the time and effort that went into that, which was almost 2 years of between the design work, the research, working with the guy who actually commissioned it, and talking to other Eagles historians, people's opinion that I value a lot, and fan surveys, and a lot of things that tied into creating that piece behind me. And like I said, this is a 5-foot print that's framed, but the original painting is 15 feet.
Wow.
And that I completed that back in 2021. Man, time flies, but still to this day, probably my most proud accomplishment, just because of, again, how much time went into it.
Ever an incident where you produced something and, I don't know, an athlete, the team, whoever commissioned it said, I don't think it's going to work?
Luckily, knock on my desk, but that has not happened to me yet that I can remember. But you do get your reactions from like an athlete that are the best, or, kind of not that exciting, but never any real negativity, I guess.
You ever finish something and then you just sort of like, it's not going to work, and you rip it up and throw it away?
No, I wouldn't say
okay.
that, but I have had, like, not where I've gone really far and then started all over, but I have had some where, okay, I didn't like the background a lot, so I kind of redid the background.
Oh, okay.
But usually when I make my work, I'm doing the figure first, or figuring that part of it out, because that's the more complex, and then I'm doing the background. But yeah.
All right. Well, listen, this is a Sixers-centric podcast. What have you painted that's Sixers related?
So my most iconic thus far is the Sixers Legacy, basically the version of this one behind me, which is actually a commission job that was a mural inside of a gentleman who has an indoor basketball court on his property. So that was just a really exciting project, because it kind of came pretty soon after this one. And it was a way for me to be able to capture another Philly team, to add to this kind of legacy vibe. And that's another one of my most proud projects right there. So basically, that's same thing. It has a whole history of the Sixers, kind of all the legends in there, including Marc Zumoff, and Marc.
I've seen that. I'm disappointed you didn't put hair on me. But, I mean, you're the artist. You get the little artist privilege. Never mind.
Well,
I was honored to be in it. Thank you so much for thinking of me. But go ahead.
Well, I think maybe we can make some adjustments to it.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you.
But yeah, so that has a whole history. That is 25 players and coaches in it.
Mm.
But same sort of thing, tells that story of the Sixers and the past time and the present. So that's one of my most proudest Sixers ones. But the next Sixers piece coming out that's actually part of the Immortals line is with Allen Iverson, which is really exciting. My favorite Sixer of all time. And I've connected with him before, and I know he's in general just such a passionate guy, but he really loves art, especially. And every time I show him something, he's always trying to take it from me. So I know he loves it, which is always fun. Like that's one of those reactions that you can always appreciate because he will give you a great reaction, and you hear it a lot. Especially at a lot of these memorabilia shows. Like somebody brings some cool painting, and he'll try to trade them for it or buy it from them or whatever. So he's a great guy with that, and
Well,
I'm
you mentioned Alan. I don't know if he even told you or this, but he is unbelievably good at drawing caricatures. Have you ever seen any of his work? Ask him about it. He's
No,
amazing. He is amazing.
really.
Yes, he
Wow,
draws caricatures. He's
that's
fantastic, and
crazy.
it's not something that he ever really, tries to put out there.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's news to me, and that is very interesting. That gives me ideas for this card project. Like, man, maybe I could have him draw something that'll be randomly inserted with like one of the boxes or something like that.
Yeah, right. So
Um,
what's a typical day like for you? I mean, we all get up and do our thing. Like, what does an artist do?
so I do have those days or days prior where I'm going 12 hours straight if I'm working on a project, or I'm up really late working on something. But there's a lot of other elements that go into it, especially running a business. I do have some employees now, part time guys that
Hmm.
help me with different things, and that's always good because the big goal is to
Wait,
grow.
what do the employees do? You're the artist.
Yeah, so I have a guy Marc, who helps with a lot of management. He kind of helps keep everything in place. He helps with orders that come in, and helps with communicating with others. And when we do a lot of outdoor events throughout the year, so he helps like coordinate the
Hmm.
guys who are working that. And yeah, a lot of different hats that he wears, and I wear a lot of different hats. And so a typical day might be half the day is working on emails and website related stuff, and just communicating with people, a proposal that I'm sending to somebody, or whatever the case is. So it tends to change a lot day to day, but I try to at least give the other half of the day to artwork, to creating, because that's the most important part.
So you mentioned creating and the fact that you have this growing business. Uh, how do you reconcile, Jordan, the fact that you're cranking out stuff? Okay, you got deadlines and everything else, with being a true artist, if you know what I'm saying. I mean, I'm creating as opposed to, just got to get it done.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that is tough. But what I have found over the years is that I work really well under pressure. Sometimes to the point where it can be really bad, where I'll procrastinate on something, not on purpose because I'm busy doing other stuff, but where I should have started it earlier. But it's ironic because yeah, I tend to perform really well under pressure, and I don't always like that, but it seems to be the case time and time again. So whether it's like I've become better and better at giving myself a deadline, because most of the time, unless it's a commission job or it's for fanatics, like yeah, there's deadlines to that even those are pretty flexible, but I tend to put the most pressure on myself for my own deadlines of, hey, we got to get this out by this date, or we're trying to hit the mark on a significant date of something. Like with Brad Lidge, like the 16th anniversary of the Phillies winning the World Series, stuff like that. So I think whether it's just got to get this done or I have more time, it's going to be great either way.
You ever have like a moment where you're just, I don't know, sitting around sipping a cold one, and you say to yourself, "Man, I'm a kid who grew up in suburban Philly, and I make a living at putting on canvas my love of sports." I mean, really, think about it.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
think about it?
I do, yeah. Not nearly enough, I don't think, but it's really opportunities like this that I do enjoy because I get to talk about what I do and talk about the stories behind it, and it's a great way for me to think about it and reminisce a little bit. To your point, and yeah, I think it's needed for all of us to do to appreciate what we've accomplished or how far we've come, and I whenever I have the chance, it's definitely a nice feeling to be able to look at it all and where it's going. And yeah.
Give out your website if people want to take a look at your work and learn more about you.
Yeah, so you can find all my work on my website, spectorsportsart.com. I post a lot.
Spector.
Yep, Spector sportsart.com. And you can also follow my work on Instagram, Twitter at Spector_art. That's where I post a lot of behind the scenes stuff. I'm also on Facebook at Jordan Spector Art. And yeah, check it out.
Jordan Spector, thank you so much for being with us on Fresh 24.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to this episode of Fresh 24. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. Check out our friends over at Philadelphia Sports Nation, a local Philadelphia sports site covering your favorite teams across blogs and social media. PHLSportsNation.com. Philadelphia Sports Nation. PHL Sports Nation. Enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience.